Coming up on ReFramed.
Along with this week's special guest, Tobi, and today we'll be discussing the Disney film called Luca.
The intersectional queen.
There's some progress happening, but we need so much more, and it would be nice if it would happen faster.
It's been a struggle.
Yeah, I just see pretty things and I'm like, oh, I love it.
So I was just like, okay, big girl panties on, you've got this.
Welcome back, everyone, to ReFramed, the podcast that reframes how disability is portrayed in film and TV. I'm your host, Jason Climo, and today I have my wonderful co-host, Robyn Lambert, with me, along with this week's special guest, Tobi. And today we'll be discussing the Disney film called Luca. But before we get into discussing Luca, let's say hello to Tobi and learn a little bit more about them. So welcome to the podcast, Tobi. Did you just want to start off by introducing yourself, telling everyone a bit about you?
Cool. Hi. Hello. So I am a disabled woman who lives with osteogenesis imperfecta. I grew up in the foster care system, and I am a bisexual woman who is also Muslim. And I talk about it quite often on TV, in podcasts like today, and I do lots of different blogs and stuff like that to try and draw awareness. And I call myself the intersectional queen, pretty much, because I pretty much tick all the boxes, not on purpose, but that's how it kind of came about. But yeah, I was born with a Muslim name. All my family are Muslim, and I always like to talk about, what it was like being in the foster care system, etc., etc. I'm also a dancer. I've been dancing for most of my life since I was about 13 years old. I do contemporary, Afrobeats, all kinds of different dances, Indian, all kinds.
Awesome.
And I use a wheelchair full time. But yeah, so that's me. I mean, I've broken 78 bones, and I am only 29 years old. So yeah, my experience has been a bit crazy, and I also lived in 18 different foster homes as well. So I've got quite a story.
Wow.
That's gotta be one of the most in-depth introductions we've ever had. That's you got everything going.
Yes, literally. And just to add, I was the first disabled Black woman to work with MTV UK as well.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
incredible.
another
Awesome.
piece
Let's
of
get to that
information.
very soon. But very important question first. Does the intersectional queen role, does that come with a really cool crown?
Well, I've got my own crown, you see. It's called an Afro
Yeah.
crown. Yeah. So yeah,
I love that.
yeah. I hold it dear to me because it's like a badge almost. A badge of honor. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, you sound very proud about it. That's awesome.
Did you want to maybe explain a little bit more to our listeners about what intersectionality means? Because I think a few of them might not have really heard of that term too much.
Sure. So I don't know how it came about, but to my knowledge, intersectionality is when a person kind of fits various tick box exercises as such. So they kind of cover all different minorities that generally are not given enough opportunities, given enough chances to speak in professional settings. I believe that's how intersectionality came about. Perhaps if you're disabled and you happen to be part of the LGBTQ community, that means you would be, an intersectional person because you have two minority groups that you've kind of fit into. So that's what it basically means.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I guess why do you think it's so important that, why is it so important to you that people with disability are represented in general? But I think you'll probably take a more in-depth lens and talk about intersectionality as well, possibly.
I think it's really important because we're in 2022 now, and there's so much opportunity to create room in these new markets that are coming out and trying to be inclusive, keyword trying. I think just adding disability to it actually adds a really like important line there, because anyone can be disabled at any point in their life.
Yeah.
Or they may have somebody in their family that they might not understand, and they proudly say, "Oh, I've got someone who's disabled in my family," but they don't truly understand what that means. And so it's really important for representation to be out there for family members, for children, for elderly people, for all kinds of people from different age groups, to actually understand what it means to have a disability specifically.
Yeah. And I'm really curious. You mentioned that you're a wheelchair dancer, which is very exciting. I'm curious though, how have you found those spaces to be particularly inclusive, or have you sort of struggled to gain representation in that area?
It's been a struggle. I changed the national curriculum for GCSE dance in the UK when I
Awesome.
was around
Oh
14.
gosh.
So it was hard, because I really had to I had to fight a lot
Mm,
for myself,
Yeah.
for my friend. He uses an electric wheelchair, and my other friend who has an intellectual disability. So before Instagram or before
mm,
social media, I've always been really, really passionate about like inclusion, and
mm.
especially in the dance world, because I think dance is what I love about dance is you can literally move in dance with just your eyes or your head. And that was one of the things that my friend was doing in his exam. And we fought for that, especially myself. I fought for that. So I just, I think dance is getting there, but it's still very, very linear in terms of opportunities to be in Broadway, in in big shows that are across the country. It's really hard to see representation still. But yeah, I think it's getting better, but it needs work, definitely.
Like most of our industries, I feel like there's some
Yeah,
progress happening, but we need so much more, and it would be nice if it would happen faster.
Yeah.
exactly. Hurry
Yeah,
up.
literally. And
Literally.
on that, did you want to I love that you were one of the first Black disabled women to work with MTV. Did you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so do you know what? It kind of happened by accident. Um,
Love that.
basically, yeah, like a friend of mine, we kind of been working together with it's a project called the Tope Project. It basically came about because a young person from the foster care system sadly took their life, and around Christmas time. So around Christmas time, they created a space of love and acceptance, and where care leavers of all walks of life could come on Christmas Day and not be by themselves. What we would do is go to different companies and share our stories, and give people an understanding of what it means to be actually intersectional, and what does that look like, because often what happens when people want to include disabled people or black people or the LGBTQ community, they do not think about the crossover of living in
Mm,
foster care or something like that, and not coming from such a privileged life.
yeah.
So basically, a day we all went out on a day out to MTV. No, in what's it called in Viacom. That's it. To Viacom. So Viacom is like it's like it covers Nickelodeon, Channel 5, MTV, BET, all that. So we met with all the kind of like top directors, producers, etc., etc. And we literally sat there and we did a few games and stuff like that. And we all went round in the table. There was like different tables, and you'd get a certain amount of time to speak to them. So essentially, I was the only person who had a visible disability, and I wanted to make sure that I represented it well, not just because I'm a black woman, but because of the fact that I am disabled, and there are lots of people who come from the foster care system who get forgotten from the disabled community. So I sat down and spoke to this lady who works with BET and MTV and stuff like that. And I was scared. However, I knew that this was my chance to make a real difference. So I was just like, okay, big girl panties on, you've got this. And literally, I was like, okay, it's fine, I'm good. Um, but yeah, so I just sat in front of this lady, and she looked so. At first, she was so stern and serious, and I kind of just made a bit of I just made a bit of a joke of it, and just kind of told
Yeah.
her, gave her a rundown of who I am, what I do, blah blah blah, why it's really important to be inclusive, and that beyond today, I would love to work with you guys on real inclusivity. And there was some pushback. A few other people in other departments. I can't say just other departments were very. They were very like, yes, well, we've hired disabled inclusion people, and I'm like, okay, but is that inclusion person able-bodied? Because often able-bodied people speak for us. And I have a problem with that, because those who actually live with disabilities have the skills, and they're not being hired, and they are living below the poverty line, and you're taking up their space. So, anyway, eventually she was like, do you know what? I like you. And I was like, I like you too. I like you too, girl. So she was like, you've got to come back. So I came back, and I dressed all nice. I had my afro out. I was giving, you must be inclusive, full stop. So I was like really ready for it. And I really just explained everything. I showed the inclusion team and this lady, different people who are on Instagram at the moment and making lots of changes and differences from all different walks of life, and that if they sort of had me on, I would be able to include these people. And essentially, I want to create my own TV network or TV channel for disabled actors, singers, dancers, and producers, and so on, to give them proper representation, rather than a little snippet of a documentary or something, because we're more than
Yeah.
documentary. And we're more than just 2 minutes of a clip. So yeah, essentially she then said, okay, we'll get back to you. And then the rest was history. I came back and I filmed lots of times. It was so much fun. The first thing I did was about fear, and it was with a young man who he contracted HIV his first time having a relationship. And um, he talks about his experience being a gay man, and he uses his poetry so well. I love him to pieces. And I then spoke about my experience being in the foster care system, and how both of us, we use our art. His is poetry, mine is dance. How we use our art to be our power and our strength, and to overcome those fears. Being part of the LGBTQ community, and being disabled, and blah blah blah. So feel free to look it up. It's on. Just put MTV Tobi or something like that, and it will come straight up, and you'll see it's there. But yeah, it was so much fun, and hopefully this year we'll be able to do some more stuff.
That would be amazing. Definitely let me know as well, because I'd love to
Mm.
share that stuff on my own Instagram. Which, speaking of, before we head over to analyze Luca, the film, the Disney film, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to let all of our people following along, our reframers, know where they can find you on social media, how they could possibly work with you if they wanted to, or if they just want to follow you.
yeah, so I have a page on Instagram and Twitter, and I believe Facebook, called Tough Cookie Tea, TOUGH, Cookie, TEE. And I believe I've also got a YouTube channel as well where I talk about being in care and stuff. And I also have created something called Disabled Black Power TV. We haven't launched anything at the moment, but we're hoping to this year, to share some more information about different people who are out there who are disabled and black.
Cool. That
Epic.
sounds awesome. Again, definitely let me know when that launches. That sounds really cool.
Yes, we do.
And everybody go follow Toby. She's obviously amazing and so much
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Now I think it's time to analyze Luca. Robyn, did you just want to give us a bit of an overview of Luca?
So Luca is an animated Disney film. It's a little bit of a coming of age story, I think, with a bit of a fantasy twist. And it follows Luca, who's a sea monster, that discovers he has this ability to take human form. And he then goes and explores the French Riviera with his friend Alberto. And I guess of interest to us, he meets a character named Julia along the way, I think while he's trying to escape from a bully or something like that. And Julia's dad, Massimo, has a disability. He is an amputee, and that is portrayed in the film.
And I loved this film
So
for so many
adorable.
reasons. But it
So
was
good.
just so
I
cute.
loved it.
Honestly, if you didn't get like tears welling up, like at the end there, if you
Beautiful.
didn't get those tears like flowing, I don't know what's wrong with you. Toby, did you want to kick us off and just let us know what you like felt and thought about the disability representation in the film?
Yeah, I liked that they didn't make it like a big thing. There was a moment that I realized, I can't remember who it was, but they were scared of him. But I don't think it was based on on his arm missing. I think it was just the base that he's quite a big, he's quite a broad,
He's kind of a scary looking guy.
man.
He's massive. Like like he's pretty scary looking.
Yeah, so I liked that for some
Yeah.
reason. I liked
Yeah.
it because it humanized him. It made him more human, you know what I mean? And
Mm.
he told, he told the story that a shark or something bit him or whatever, and then
Yeah.
Yes.
it was just funny. I don't know, like I liked how he just didn't make it a big thing, you know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
kids just accepted it and
Yeah.
loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the main characters asks or sort of looks like at his arm, and then he notices, and then he says to them, "Oh, a sea monster took it," because like obviously, spoilers. The whole thing is that like the town hates the sea monsters, and then they like make up at the end. And he makes this joke that a sea monster took it, and then he says, "No, I just came into the world this way." And I really loved that because it was just like this. And then the kids were just like, okay. Like it was just this
Yeah.
perfect moment where I was like,
That's how it should be.
I loved, yes. And also, like, it just reminded me of like my experiences as of like talking to kids about like my physical disability as
Mm.
well, because I'm a manual wheelchair user. Um, and kids are just so much more like they're
Accepting.
inquisitive, but as soon as you tell them, they're
Uh,
just like, "Oh, okay, that's what that is. Moving on. I
Can you
accept
push me
that."
on the
yeah,
swing now?
Whereas like it's
yeah,
literally.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, they're like, as long as you can like entertain me and like get me food or something, I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like,
yeah.
but I feel like adults are the ones that have like all the hang-ups attached. But yeah,
I loved it too because I think like the media so often focuses on like some kind of tragic backstory, and for like so many of us, it's just how we were born. Like everyone asks me like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to you?" And it's like, well, my mum had me, and then here I am. Like, so I
but
love that.
also like you could say that I had like a tragic
Yeah.
story because I acquired my impairment, but like I don't want to talk about it all of
No,
the time, especially not with
you don't owe
strangers.
that
So
to
like in
anyone.
those films, yeah, even like animation films, like if they were like explaining what happened and like how did this happen, I'm like, this just instills in people watching that it's like okay to ask because they're going to get an
Yeah.
answer. Whereas like when people ask me, I'm like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Soz, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
I feel you. I feel you on that one.
Yeah, but I'm glad like you guys both agree. I loved it so much. And I feel like for me, it was all about, I guess, the way that there was like no reaction as
Mm,
well from anyone else in town. Like they
Mm.
just all knew him as Massimo, and that was just it.
yeah.
Like it wasn't like, yeah, there was no like, I guess, no hang-ups about the fact that he was a person with disability.
And they respected him as well. They respected him. That's what I liked. And he made the final decision when, at towards the end, spoiler, towards the end, literally they were gonna kill the sea monster, the Luca and his friend, and literally he kind of like stepped up and like was kind of like the leader of the town as such. And I love that. Like, yes, come on, leadership.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
here for it.
literally.
So I was
Yeah,
so
and
here
like
for that.
Yeah.
they just showed like really interesting ways of how he kind of had adapted to life without making it a big deal as well.
And was
Like
just like
Mm,
a
the fact that
dad
he
at the
still
end
goes
of the
out.
day too. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
we're
it
all
was
just
super
obsessed
dope.
with Massimo.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad they made that, and literally, I'm gonna suggest it to anyone who who has kids, because even if they don't have kids, I
Yeah.
think that it's a good movie to watch. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it's a feel good, as well as it's quite a good lesson
Yeah.
to learn.
yes,
I think I kind of wrote, because I wrote some notes, and I felt like, even with the whole like stigma about like sea monsters, and people
Mm.
being afraid of sea monsters, I think that that's so poignant, like with the times that we're in right now, because it's them and us
Yeah.
kind of thing. You get what I
yeah,
mean?
Yeah. Everyone's
It's very
afraid. Yeah.
much fear
yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and fear does not get you anywhere. It doesn't. It doesn't get you anywhere. And I think, um, them highlighting that. I mean, even Luca's parents were fearful of him, going on land, and they forbid him to go. And you know, I loved. Oh, what was the? I think I wrote it down. There was, he said
I love that you
silencio
took note.
something. Oh, I did. Silencio something before they do stuff, like before, because basically he
Oh,
was scared.
Silencio Bruno.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it, Silencio
yeah,
Bruno. That's it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Before, like literally, he wanted both Luca and his friend Gussil. Was it Gussil or something?
Alberto, I
I
think,
don't
or
remember.
something like
Anyway,
that. Yeah.
but
Alberto, that's it.
Alberto.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know where I got it. Anyway. I liked that when they wanted to build their bike and they wanted to go down the hill with the bike. Luca was really scared, and
Hmm.
he was like, "Just say Silencio Bruno," and then he just did it. And again, another lesson to learn,
Yeah,
about just being fearful and scared. Like, once you overcome those fears, it it's I don't know, like your body is at ease as such, and you become much more accepting of people, which is what we really need right now. With so many different groups.
it would have been really easy for them as well to like fall into a bit of a trap where like Massimo was like really um related to the sea monsters because he was different too. And I love that they didn't do that. Like, I really felt like they would. Well, I really felt like at one stage they were going to fall into that trap and be like, "I'm different too. That's why I relate to them," or something.
I
Like,
think like we talked about Shape of Water last season, and they really did that in that movie
yes,
where it was
I
like,
thought that's where it was
yeah,
going. Where it was like, yes, disability is not the same as like a
yeah,
monster. Like,
A
sorry.
monster, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and I like love the overall themes of acceptance. So I love what you're saying there, Toby, about like the lessons that we take away are so important, especially with kids movies. There's always hidden lessons in there. So I love that
Mm.
like disability was thrown in there as well. So
yeah. I did a little bit of digging actually, and I found out that one of the guys from the Crip Camp documentary actually did a bit of consulting on the film. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why it was such a good portrayal, is because, as always, when you have people with that lived experience behind the narrative, it tends to come out a little bit better?
Hey, the only thing I actually also didn't look up was whether the person who voiced the character was a person with
Ooh,
disability.
I didn't either.
I
Ooh.
know. I think I'm gonna have to look that
Yeah.
up, guys, and then we'll make sure we put it out on social media and let you guys know.
Yes.
Because that's always such an important thing.
Yeah.
Is like our two things that we always bang on about is that like genuine representation is so important. Hire disabled people in the role, but also hire them behind the camera as well. So, yeah, I love that they've got that consulting in.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah,
I
that's
do
awesome.
have one criticism.
We love
Just
it. We
one.
love it. Let's hear
Go for
it.
it. Yes, get it.
I felt that there wasn't enough diversity in terms of race. That's my only criticism. Other than that, I really liked the film, but I just felt like there are people in that town that are people of color. So I think it would have been good to sprinkle that in. But again, at the same time, I think, as people say, change happens very slowly, and so we have to be patient. So I am grateful that it's even come out, and there's a part of that, you know what I mean? But that's my only. Other than that, I'm.
Oh, but I think we have to talk about those things, right? Because that's how things get better. So
You know, there could have been other characters with disability as well, because like surely he wasn't the only person with a disability experience in that whole town. So, it was nowhere near, I mean, not nowhere near, but it wasn't perfect. And I think we should definitely, rein it in, because I think sometimes when we see something that's good, we're like, this is amazing. When actually it's like, no, this is good. What we're actually striving for is a bit more than that. And I think that's really important. And I guess on affecting change, like I love seeing disability representation in kids' films. Like I love it because sort of on this like similar, I guess, pathway as like inclusive education is. I think the most effective way to actually like create change into the future is actually like changing the perceptions that our
mm,
children have or our young people have of disability, because obviously the youth is the future
mm.
and all of that kind
They
of thing.
can't
But
be what they can't
that's why
see, so they can't be these accepting people if
exactly.
they don't get
Mm,
exposed to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I think like it's so awesome to see Disney like get on that and do a solid job of it. And also, like you've said, Robin, hire disabled people, I guess not behind the camera, but behind the scenes, I guess we'll say, to actually like steer that narrative correctly. Because I think it's like, I think like if I could choose like one type of film that would be like perfectly inclusive right now, it would be like kids' films, because we will see the impact like in 10 years' time. It'll just make a huge difference. But also, like, adults learn so much from Disney films.
yeah, and let's be all honest. Like, we do have that inner child in us. It doesn't ever go away. As much as there's lots of things that we have to deal with as adults. We are really all still, children at heart. When we get the chance to be children, we fully dive in and have fun with the kids. So, it is important. It makes it a lot more fun. It's a good conversation. If they wanted to have it later on, they could, because they sat down and watched the movie together as a family that had something slightly different. I don't know though if I'm gonna. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask a few of my friends to watch the movie. I want to see what they say, because I'm not sure whether they would have even recognized, like, how do I explain? Like, I don't think, because like how you said, it wasn't, it was subtle,
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
I don't know whether it will be kind of like a subliminal for
Mm,
them, which would be good. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when it's too obvious, like we said before, it's
Mm.
just a bit like cringe.
mm,
So I
Yeah.
want to know like what other people who are able-bodied think when they watch it.
mm,
Are they taking that lesson in? I hope they are. Not lesson, but um, just appreciating it. There we
mm,
go. Like
Yeah.
appreciating it.
And possibly not, but I think like even when they don't, I guess, like consciously register disability and consciously register and appreciate it, it's the subliminal messaging as well behind it all. It's like if we saw in every single Disney movie like a disabled character like that was included incidentally, and it was like subtle enough that it wasn't like this big hoo-ha, we would all eventually like subconsciously just start registering that as like normal, like because we
Yeah.
know that it is normal, that it would actually start actually normalizing.
I think that's even more powerful, right? Like if we can just watch something and not even pick up disability, just appreciate the character.
Yeah,
Like that's what we want. We want to just be
Mm,
appreciated as people, not
yeah,
necessarily just as disabled people. So
yeah,
yeah.
literally,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a
No,
good
I love it.
blueprint, I think. It's a good
Mm.
Yeah,
blueprint. And it is definitely, it makes it easier for like myself, for example, when I go into rooms that I have to speak to specific producers and directors and stuff, and they're like, okay, so give us the ideas. And I'm like, well, so it kind of helps. It kind of helps to have something that I can kind of refer to and
Mm.
get them to do some homework of their own and
yeah,
actually
literally.
make, a conscious effort
We
rather
like
than
giving people
just
homework. It's not all our
We
responsibility.
do.
yes.
Yes,
literally you go do it,
do the work.
Yeah.
okay.
We've
Yeah,
done
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
exactly. I think it's time to give our scores out of 5 on the inclusive disability representation scale. Robyn, did you want to kick us
Yeah,
off?
I gave it a 4.5. I thought it was pretty good. Maybe it is because we're getting excited because it's adorable and whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a really good opportunity for kids and the adults who are forced to watch alongside them to just be exposed to disability in a way that I would want my disability to be seen just as part of who I am. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
And then
I
obviously
love
when I
that.
did a bit more digging and I found out that disabled people were consulted and it kind of made sense. So yeah, I loved it.
I think for me it's a 4 out of 5 because I think there was still that opportunity for a bit more depth in there. It was an amazing character. I loved that so much. Loved that he was a father. Loved that he like had his own job, like his own business, like as a fisher, like all of these amazing things, and that it was incidental. And I love that you've brought up to me about the consulting behind the scenes, Robyn. But I think that there was an opportunity to probably have like other characters with disability as well, because I feel like you know that character itself was a 5 out of 5, but the representation in the film was a 4 because I'm like, we can't just have one anymore. Like I've had enough. Like there's not just one disabled person in every single town. That's not how I believe the world works.
Nice.
So it's a 4 out of 5 for me.
What about you, Toby?
Toby?
Hmm. I've been, I don't know if I
Toby
should
might be
do,
like really harsh.
I know, I'm like, oh, should I be?
Whatever your
Ah,
gut says.
my gut says 3.5. Sorry, guys. Just because, so like kind of like halfway. I think, like I said, I think there's some wiggle room to do better. However, I did really like it. I really, really enjoyed it. Honestly, I could watch it like 100 times. I love the movie. But yeah, I think 3.5.
I love that.
Yeah.
Am I
Great. There
harsh?
was
I'm
definitely
harsh, but it's
No, we,
fine.
we need to be harsh. We need intersectionality. We need all of those things. So yeah.
yeah, I need to
Yeah.
invite on guests that are like harsher than us. I feel like sometimes we're too good.
Yeah,
Like we're
I
too
just like
nice.
see pretty things and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I love it.
It's beautiful. I love
That's a 5 out of 5 for me.
it. But it is, I think, like, just to sort of finish off, like Disney have been doing disability representation, I guess, for a while now. Like when you think back to like
Mm,
Finding Nemo kind of
Yeah,
days, like that's disability representation, and it's kind of cool to see like how different
progress.
it is now versus then. Like it was so like dramatized in Finding Nemo, I feel.
mm,
Without like naming it as disability, it was like quite dramatized. And then I think, something more modern like Luca, it's really cool to see, although not a main character,
Mm,
something that is incidental and not dramatized and not like, hi, look at this.
mm.
Like, yeah.
mm.
So I think there's some real
Why?
opportunity for them to keep growing that.
Why do you think that they are sort of delaying the main character to be disabled? Because I just think at this point,
It's like
Yeah,
it's like the whole Disney princess thing. It's like, when are we getting a disabled Disney
yeah,
princess, right?
mm,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I just think no, for sure. Like, I wish that they would just
Bite the bullet.
go ahead and do it. Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what are you waiting
Yeah.
for? I don't understand. And do you know how many kids could benefit from
Yeah.
that? Because they probably have friends that are disabled. They probably have a mum that's disabled.
I
Like,
think that would make someone's
do you know what I
year,
mean?
like seeing that and just like.
Literally, could you
I think if
imagine?
I was a kid
I'm
and I
sorry,
saw
but
that, I would
like,
cry. Like, and I'm not a crier.
literally. I was just gonna say, like, I
Literally.
swear Disabled Barbie must be like the highest selling Barbie of all time. Like every single person that I know, I mean, this is kind of like a whole aside thing that's like can sometimes be irritating. It's cute, but can sometimes be irritating when people like send you photos and they're like, "Oh, my kid really wanted Disabled Barbie because they know you and they love you." And I was like, "That's really cute." But I swear, like so many, I reckon at least like 20 people sent me like a photo of Disabled Barbie and was like, "We bought this," and I was like, "Okay, that's cool," but like, I swear they must have sold like bajillions of that. Like, so even like when you come from a business case, I guess that's where I was going with that. Just like rogue thoughts going everywhere. The business case of actually representing disability as well in Disney films, I think they'll see like once they actually do it really well and have a main character, like sales will probably just skyrocket.
It's like you said, like
They will.
biggest minority, and then all of the people that love and care for that minority. Like that's a lot of people. That's a lot of dollars.
Yeah. I think the like most
Exactly.
recent stats I saw are like 18% of like most first world countries are people with disability, and then
See?
around 60% of those populations, it's usually around 18 to like 20 are people with disability, and then usually around 60 to 70% have like a direct connection to disability, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's like friends, family members, loved ones, like yeah, colleagues even. So yeah, I think
Just
when you
make it
think about
happen.
it from like the dollary
Yeah,
bills
literally.
perspective, it's like, come on,
Yeah.
Disney. We'll
Hurry
at
up, we
Disney and we'll
waiting.
see. Yeah. We'll at
Yeah.
Disney and then we'll
This is a clip right here at
Literally.
Disney. Like we're gonna go viral.
Yes. Let's do it. Everyone tag
we
Disney
all
right
try and
now.
do the Disney Channel like do you guys remember like the
Like
Ron
round.
thing with the Disney Channel?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were always like da da da, and then it was like, yes, this is the mouse. Remember that?
Yeah.
An
Oh, too
outline.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, I think that's enough talk for one episode. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Toby, and obviously thank you, Robyn, for being my wonderful co-host for today. Thank you, everyone, as well at home who joined along and listened or watched this episode. Definitely go give Toby a follow on all the social medias, and if you wanted to work with Toby with some consulting work, reach out. And we want to hear what you thought about Luca as well. And obviously, this episode, there's some bit of shit talk in there, but that's always fun. Jump on our social media. If you literally search ReFramed Podcast, you'll find us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we want you to retweet, share your story on Instagram, comment on stuff, and let us know what your scores were, and let us know what you thought of Luca as well. Even like tag Disney and some stuff. We'll get their attention, hopefully. Start a little bit of a trend. Make some noise, I guess. Like get some attention, and hopefully we can get this message spread far and wide and create some more change. And lastly, I just want to say a big thank you as well to the Community Broadcasting Foundation for helping us to fund this series. Very grateful because we love jumping on here and having these chats. It's lots of fun. And other than that, we will see you next week. So thank you again. Thanks, Robyn.
Cheers.
Thanks, Toby.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you to the Community Broadcasting Foundation for funding this podcast.